early childhood. I was one of those little kids running barefoot, you know, in the C&H commercial, running barefoot for the cane fields. That was me. It was an interesting growing up years, especially since those experiences are gone now because all the sugar plantations are gone. My first job was working in a pineapple cannery. That's also over because all the pineapple canneries are gone in Hawaii, so now depends on tourism, which, you know, whatever. I did attend 3 different universities. Got my bachelor's degree in northern Arizona. When you're from Hawaii, you go somewhere where there's going to be snow, and that was in Flagstaff. And then I got a master's degree in Bowling Green, Ohio, and a second master's degree in Newark, Delaware, at the University of Delaware, and attended a number of other institutions. But I've always lived. My entire professional career was in Redlands. I taught, as she said in my intro, history, government, and economics. When I left Hawaii for college, I had to figure out how to get from point A to point B. And that introduced me into travel and how do you get there. I once said to my father, you know, I was 17 years old and you and Mom had bundled me up and sent me off to a place you'd never been. And he looked at me and he said, we knew we could trust you. And that was just the best thing a father could ever say. After 2 years of teaching, I was granted a Fulbright Hays summer seminar in East Africa and spent time in Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, and Sudan. And then on the way home, went to Egypt and Russia. And this was in 1966, so this is well during the Cold War. After marriage, we did do some traveling. Went to the Panama Canal because I wanted to, as a history teacher, wanted to see it before it was given to Panama. Went to Hong Kong before the British gave it up. And then I got a 10-day study trip to Latvia in the Baltic. So I did do some, and we also did travel a great deal across the United States. When I retired in 2001, I looked around, you know, what should I do with my life and where should I go? And I just took advantage of many opportunities and got to travel. And the more I traveled, the more I realized this was fun. Even though you have to go on long plane rides, somebody said, well, how do you do a 13-hour plane ride? I said, well, you read 2 books, you watch 3 movies, you have 2 meals, and you're halfway there. But anyway, as I said, I've walked on all 7 continents and sailed in all 5 oceans. Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, of course, and the Southern Ocean around Antarctica and the Arctic Ocean. I spent quite a bit of time in the Arctic. Steve was asking me about that. Why go to the Arctic? Why not? Especially if you want to see the sun 24 hours a day or not see the sun for 24 hours a day. It's something I enjoy, it's something I think everyone could enjoy, but it takes time and it takes patience to get out there and do it, to find places to go. With Steve's company, I've traveled, I think, 14 or 15 trips, and that really opened me up to going places and seeing things. How do I share my experiences? Because this is an event that should be shared. And I wrote newspaper articles for the local newspaper for years until they said they didn't want locally written articles anymore. But I still have friends in Redlands that ask me about my articles. And speaking of Redlands, I moved to a retirement community 2 years ago, to Plymouth Village. And people say, how do I like it there? And I love it. It's a nice, secure place. A place where you can make new friends and still maintain your commitments in the city. What do I mean by reasonable expectations when you travel? For one thing, choose destinations you want to see and experience. Australia. I always wanted to go to Australia, and finally I convinced a friend of mine, let's go. It's my 7th continent, we should see Australia. Japan. I was fortunate in my 2 trips to Japan to be there at the height of cherry blossom season. And so I got to experience that and got to share that with friends. Mount Rushmore. very recently. You know, there's so much here in this country to see besides, and I've done all 50 states. When I went to West Virginia, I had to get off and wait 3 days because the train didn't come back for 3 days. So again, you know, reasonable expectations. What am I gonna do in West Virginia for 3 days? You find things to do, and you look around, and it's no different than traveling to South Africa, or to Kenya, or to China. People are the same everywhere. They want the same things. They want security and enjoy life. They want a better life for their children. And that's what I've seen when I go out to these places and experience them. Also, to have a reasonable expectation, you have to have some level of understanding about what you may encounter. Like poverty in India, for instance. You know, it took me a long time to talk myself into going to India. And I finally realized, my expectation is, you know, there's nothing I can do about it. Go and enjoy it. And I did, very much so. The Taj Mahal is worth visiting and seeing, and the grandeur of that, you know, it was really worthwhile. Do some background reading and study before you go, so you know what to expect. Going to the Galapagos, for instance, somebody had given me this book called My Father's Island, and it was about the first German immigrants to the Galapagos. I don't know if you realize, but the Galapagos are a group of, well, you know where they are, that had no indigenous population. So it's all people that have moved there. And when I got there, I thought, oh, this is what she was talking about. You know, isn't this, you know, it was a revelation to see this. Easter Island is another one. I went with Steve's group to Easter Island, one of my best trips. I mean, if you can get there, it's worth going. But again, you know, what are the Moai doing there? Why are they there? These are the big statues. And once you get there, you look at them and go, okay, they're here. What's the big deal? Really, it's really quite enlightening. I did the Trans-Siberian Railroad. Just simply because I have this map in my office, and it has all the pins of every place I've been, and here was this big gap, you know, in Russia, so I had to go put little dots. Again, I read up on the background of the building of the railroad, and so when you get there, oh, okay, this is what it is, and again, you know, reasonable expectations. You're not gonna have everything that's just absolutely perfect. Be accommodating to your travel companion. I've traveled with a lot of different people, including some that Steve set me up with. Rusty in Mongolia, and she opened up her suitcase and she had 3 gallons of water in her. Do you know how much that weighs? And I'm okay. But again, you know, I didn't criticize her. I didn't say, what the heck are you doing? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. This was her, and that's the way it should be. And then another person I travel with a lot is this man we've traveled together for 23 years. He's 20 years younger than I am. I mean, that raises eyebrows when we walk into a restaurant or something. But again, we respect each other's space. You know, somebody said, well, how do you get dressed? I said, I get dressed in the bathroom. I mean, you're not gonna go walking around in front of, you know, a female friend that way. So, you know, it's reasonable. He could never be married. It's very quirky, but I enjoy him, and he pushes me out of my comfort zone. Do you know what a wave rider is? Those artificial waves that you just, little old lady got on there. And got a big applause when the little white-haired lady finally fell off her board. Again, you know, the reasonable expectations of your travel companions. They're not you, they're not your spouse, so enjoy them. And if they bother you, just, oh well, you know, go the other way. Do not expect that it will all be wonderful. The hotels, the guides, the tour directors, airline schedules, it's not going to be perfect. I waited as long as 13 hours for a flight. And somebody said, how did you do that? You just do it. You just are reasonable, okay. The flight schedule doesn't match my schedule. I'm not gonna change it, so enjoy it. Some things can be physically hard. The Milford Track in New Zealand, hiking 33 and a half miles. And I'm not ashamed to say I was the last one, but I did it. I finished it. I was reasonable in what could I do. We were actually, it was interesting because the group was, a huge group, but most of them were retired FBI agents. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, I was in better shape than they were, because they tried to outdo each other. I can do this, the unreasonable expectations of your capabilities. I don't walk as well as I should, or I do, and so I know my limits. The next trip I'm going to go on is on the Icon of the Seas, which is 7,500 passengers. My last trip was on a trip with 220. But anyway, somebody said, where are you going? I said, I don't know, I don't plan on getting off the ship. They have 40 restaurants. I gotta try as many as I can. Mongolia, one of Steve's favorite trips. We start out from Ulaanbaatar. There's a group of us, and we start out, and it's time to go to the restroom. We pull off the side of the road. There is no tree. There is no bush. There's not even a blade of grass. Do you think you could hold a towel for me while I hide behind it? Again, okay, they didn't have restrooms. They didn't have rest stops. But you figure it out. You become accommodating, and you do that. Sometimes food is a challenge. I'm not that fond of Indian food, but I tried it, and I was never hungry. In China, I remember going to this one, I was there with some friends, and so we were being entertained by a group of city officials from the city of Wuhan, and they were so excited because this special dish was going to come for all of us. And it arrived, and I looked at it, and it was a sea cucumber. And I remember stepping on them in Hawaii, and I don't think so. So I said to the man next, would you like my sea? Oh, yes, he said. Again, share. Be flexible. The same thing in Mongolia. Their way of being gracious is when you stop somewhere, they give you fermented mare's milk. So you take it up to your living room, okay, and pass it on. Also, until the Soviets came in and took over Mongolia, they didn't have much in the way of vegetables. It was primarily mutton and horse meat and meat. You accommodate, you're not gonna, be reasonable on that. The weather can wreak havoc with any trip. Yes, it's going to rain, that's reasonable, yes. We went to a passion play in Italy. Thunder, lightning, horrible weather. And we thought, well, they may have to cancel, okay, that's reasonable. Well, they didn't cancel, and we had a wonderful time. So just understand that some things like that are going to happen. So launch new adventures all the time. Learn from previous experiences. Time will tell. Why do I do it? Why do I keep traveling? I do it because it has made me comfortable, because I have done so much traveling, it's comfortable. And by all means, share your experiences with others. Other people want to know, how do you do it? And how do you accommodate this? I chose for my quote, Ernest Holmes, prepare your mind to receive the best life has to offer. And that's what we should all do. And reasonable expectations will do that. Be reasonable in what you expect. Dan Buettner, who wrote about the blue zones, some of you may be familiar with the blue zones, of which Loma Linda is one of them. He said, 8 simple things that lift mood daily and keep you smiling. Number 1, get 8 hours of sleep. we all try, I think. Eat a plant-based diet. Okay, but I still gotta have my steak every once in a while. Socialize, like you do here. And that's what moving to the retirement village has shown for me, is the ability to socialize with new people and get to enjoy them. 4, volunteer. As I said, here you are, volunteering, you're all volunteers. Nap, I'm all for that. Nap is a good thing. Work part-time, I don't think so. Have faith, like you do here. Limit TV and social media. And those are the 8 he had, but to that I want to add, have reasonable expectations, not only in travel, but in life. Thank you so much for having me.